Hello guys, welcome to Top Anime Sensei. This video is the continuation video after Plan of Attack. So if you have not watched it, then please watch it. The link is in the description. So without any further delay, let's start. But before we start, please like, subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Yuki was about to argue but caught himself. Judging from the tone of the marshal, her decision was non-negotiable. Instead, the remaining corps commander, Gladium, spoke up. Please wait. Does this mean my Magic Beast Corps will not participate in this war? I promise that my corps will be useful, so please consider. He called out to the other side of the bamboo blind with a ghastly look on his face. If he and his corps were ordered to stay, the Magic Beast Corps, smallest of the three, would be given no chance to show off. The other corps commanders were about to rob him of an important task, right under his nose, making him miss his chance at glory during the war. I can never accept that. Gladium was desperate. Don't panic, fool. I have already planned for your time in the limelight. Really? So, what is my role going to be? You are to lead the entire Magic Beast Corps to the north. When Gladium finally registered the answer from the marshal, he was astonished by the absurdity of it. DEMONLORD RIMURU and King Gazel would concentrate on defending their nations. They then had the opportunity to blindside the Western nations, who were fixated elsewhere, by launching a simultaneous invasion. And before the Western States Council could react, they'd need to construct a beachhead to the north. Are you saying we cross the Kanat Mountains? Gladium was shaken as he pieced together what was implied in her statement. He understood the reason. Not just two fronts, it would be a simultaneous three-front strategy. Nevertheless, the Empire had enough military power to pull it off. However, the tactical, not strategic, aspect of this operation posed numerous challenges. The idea of trekking through the Kanat Mountains with tens of thousands of soldiers bordered on insanity. Gladium was hesitant to point this out, but then he heard the marshal laugh. That's right, Gladium, attack the royal capital of Ingratia by sea. The kingdom of Farminas, which is in the process of reconstruction, can be destroyed at any time once we take Dworgen. What? The sea? But I don't think our nation has naval battleships capable of large-scale transportation. We have them, right, Calgurio? Having been called upon by name, Calgurio knew it was futile to lie. Hearing the marshal call him without an honorific, he got a bad feeling in his gut, enough to dissuade him from commenting on it. The marshal was that intimidating. As the marshal said, the latest weapon developed by my army is called an airship. With the support of the Air Assault Division, which uses this state-of-the-art weapon, transporting the Magic Beast Corps is feasible. Calgurio's remark caused a ruckus in the conference hall. That meant there was a way to invade the Western nations without going through the Great Jura Forest. Of course, they were excited. However, Calgurio continued, turning to Gladium, as they are a necessary trump card to fight the Storm Dragon. We can only provide assistance in the form of transportation. Would that be alright? Calgurio would keep 100 of the airships and load up as much firepower as they could carry. The remaining 300 airships were already sufficient to transport well over 100,000 troops, each of them sporting a maximum capacity of 400 people. Excluding the staff operating the ship, they could still carry 350 troops. The Magic Beast Corps numbered 30,000 warriors and 30,000 Beast Knights, adding up to 60,000 plus the support force to help them fight at their full potential. And not to forget, their supplies. A total of 300 airships would be enough to transport everything. The airships themselves could not be expected to take part in the battle, but if it were just about transporting the Magic Beast Corps, they could handle it with ease. Calgurio promptly drew a line that was absolutely non-negotiable and thrust it at Gladium. Gladium, well aware of this, groaned to himself. It was an honor for the soldiers to fight against the DEMONLORD RIMURU and Veldora the Storm Dragon. It would be a shame to miss out on the opportunity, but the strategy that the marshal proposed was equally appealing. It was an unprecedented blitzkrieg operation that would fundamentally challenge the understanding of war. The sluggish Western nations would crumble before Gladium's Magic Beast Corps. This strategy made sense, all but guaranteeing their success. More importantly, there were champions called the Holy Knight Order in the West. They were a group that specialized in individual combat, and were rumored to be the strongest even in group battles. It was said that the Imperial Guards, their partners, were also outstanding. Not to mention the presence of Hinata Sakaguchi in the Holy Empire of Lubelius. She was virtually the strongest knight, and served as the head of the Imperial Guards, as well as the commander of the Holy Knight Order. Her reputation was heralded across the lands, reaching even the Empire. However, there was a rumor abound that she had recently tied with Demon Lord Rimuru. If that were the case, the so-called strongest knight would be no match for Gladium. Now that her spirit was lost, he would tear apart Hinata's champions and trample the holy capital. Gladium felt the beast blood flowing through his veins start to simmer. That's great, Beast King Gladium roared. If you can transport us to the battlefield in one piece, let's go with that plan. His agreement further jacked up the excitement in the Grand Conference Hall. We will win. We will definitely win. Victory belongs to us, the Empire. Long live the Emperor. And so on, and so forth. Many of them were already beginning to revel in the idea of victory. As if responding to their fervor, Calgurio made Gladium a promise. Going by sea, you can give the dragons a wide berth. Rest easy and leave it to me. This was one of the plans that Calgurio had in mind from the beginning. Considering the flight range of dragons, the oversea route was well outside the purview of the dragon roost. Plus, since travel by air also let them wholly avoid the sea monsters, which were more than a little pesky, he figured that this was one of the safest routes to reach the west. It would be, however, impossible to coordinate with the tank units, thus he thought it was too early to propose the plan. That was why the preliminary investigation was perfect. So, despite the odd circumstances leading to the adoption of his plan, Calgurio was pleased with the way things had turned out. Interesting. We will transport the Magic Beast Core with the airships and then focus on support and supplies afterwards. That's how I'll let it all play out. And then, I could reap all of the glory. If a large force emerges in the north, it will take the allied forces of the west by surprise. When that happens, they'll deteriorate into a pathetic rabble, unable to muster any reinforcements for Demon Lord Rimuru. They will descend into utter chaos. The Western nations, who had fixated both eyes on the Great Jura Forest, would be blindsided by such a turn of events. If that happened, nothing could bring down Calgurio's offensive. He was sure of it. Concentrating on the dungeon and the storm dragon, Calgurio calculated that doing so would net greater military gains. Is there anything you do not understand? The marshal asked. No ma'am, I will, in consultation with Gladium Dono, draw up a strategy that will accomplish our task. Spy, once you drop us off, we will show our enemies just how pitiful they are. Well then, Yuki added, I shall have to make a show of force against the Dwarven Kingdom. Once the war engulfs Central, there will be no further movement in Eastern. The marshal said, however, do you mean to imply that we can rule out retaliations from bloodthirsty dwarves? I already know. Yuki never lost his spunk, even as he cut off the marshal. Everyone else in the room, including the other corps commanders, stared at Yuki in disbelief. Is he dense or plain stupid? His attitude begged the question, but Yuki shrugged off the glances he was getting. Very well, the marshal picked up. Now then, begin preparations at once. Yes ma'am. The order had been given. Without the Emperor, Rudra, saying even a word, the stage was set for the Empire's simultaneous three-front invasion. On that day, the Imperial Edict to start the war was issued in the name of the Emperor. Spirits were running high in the Empire. At long last, after centuries of slumber, the behemoth was raring to show its claws once more. Yuki let out a sigh of relief as the Imperial Conference ended. In the previous meetings, the Marshal never spoke, but this time, she was actively interfering. As a result, Yuki was forced to tweak his plan a bit. It's no big deal. My army will be deployed near the Imperial capital as planned. Most of the Armored Corps, which is the most influential and distracting, would invade the Great Jura Forest. I wouldn't have guessed that even the Magic Beast Corps, with Vega in their midst, would move to the front lines, but I guess the Mixed Corps is all I need for the coup d'etat. The original plan was to build Vega up as the driving figure behind the coup, which also would have made him the fall guy if his plan was foiled. Of course, Yuki's troops would support him behind the scenes. Rather, Vega was a diversion, and Yuki intended to take charge of the actual work. He had no choice but to scrap the plan. But in the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter much, because Calgurio, the idiot that he was, had played right into Yuki's hands. Calgurio was more of a strategist than a fighter. He was strong enough to hold his own, but ultimately, he was a man who was particular about strategy and certain victory, avoiding any risk. And yet, when weighing a loss against the potential payoff, greed would get the better of him. In short, all he needed was a compelling reason. Tempest was rich, and their groundbreaking technology was rife for the taking. And then, if you told him they were hidden in the dungeon, telling him directly would raise suspicion. Of course, so it was better for Yuki to make him think he was after it himself. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you guys have not watched my other videos, then please watch them. The links are in the description. And don't forget to like, subscribe and press the bell icon so you don't miss the updates.